Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, friends of the Ortolino Company. What's the Ortolino Company? A small virtual auction house, a family company, which began in 2001 to offer art prints, mostly Japanese prints, in weekly online auctions. And last year, we began to offer more contemporary artists from all over the world. And I want to begin this video with a question for you. Have you ever lived or worked in London in Great Britain, in the United Kingdom, or have you visited and encountered London as a tourist? Well, if the answer is yes, then the art prints by a new artist, by Janet Brooke, you see her there in the background, they might be your thing, they might be of interest for you, because Janet Brooke, she portrays London. Well, her art prints are views, town views of London. For instance, she has a famous series, 36 views of Canary Wharf. By the way, this series is an allusion to the old series of Japanese prints, like 36 views of Mount Fuji. Well, I will now show you half a dozen of her prints. Enjoy them. The first time I saw London, personally, was when I 15 or 16 years old. I don't remember it so precisely anymore. I saw London with a paying guest program. It was a long journey from Munich in southern Germany by train, and then by ferry, and then again by train. Somewhere in the outskirts to London. It was in the early 1960s, and it was the time of the Beatles mania. I remember that very well. And my host family, they lived in a suburb of London. They were very nice, but they had little time for me, so I was basically on my own. And I remember I had to take a train from this suburb to London in order to see the sightseeing, tourist attractions of London. And I remember the destination train station in London, that was Waterloo Station. But I managed to visit all major tourist attractions and always found my way back to that family in a British suburb. In later years, later decades, I visited London over prolonged weekends, and the last time I remember that was in the early 1990s. Canary Wharf at that time was still a construction site. And I took a look at the skylines of London on Google, and judging from these images, London has changed a lot, my friends. Janet lived and worked in London for many years, and she specialized in town views, mainly in town views of London. You see her here at her old press. That's her own press in her home. And there she pulls a print. A little bit more about this press afterwards. Janet works in lino cuts and in screen prints, and she creates small editions. Janet is very renowned, very established artist in the UK and in London, and she's represented by Bankside Gallery. That is a very plush gallery in London, by the way. Take Google and take a look at it. You will be surprised. Not as plush as Ortolino, I have to confess that. And Janet, she's a fellow of the Royal Society of painters, printmakers in the UK, and also a member of another artist association of East London printmakers, also a large artist association of printmakers in London. The UK printmakers are very active and well, quite astonished. Very large number of printmakers in the UK. When you only deal with Japanese Japanese printmakers, you're not aware of that. And collections of Janet prints are in the Museum of London and at Canary Wharf. Before we close this video, I want to tell you a little story about the printing press that Janet uses to create prints like this one. This is from the series, by the way, of 36 Views of Canary Wharf. Well, Janet, let's go back to that photograph. Yeah. Uses something called imperial press. And this press, you won't believe it, it was made in 1832 in Shoreditch. Sorry, the pronunciation is certainly wrong. Shoreditch in London. And Janet told me that this press still has all its original parts. Again, it was made in 1832, not in 1932, in 1832. This is nearly unbelievable. That means it's nearly 200 years old, 180 years old. And this press weighs 1 ton. At that time, things were made for eternity. 1 ton, that's as much as the weight of a middle-class car. And then when Janet moved out of London, who today can still afford to live in London, well, she wanted to take this press with her, but there was a problem. She moved into a house in the Row. I'll now show you a photograph that I received by Janet. Here we have it. She moved into one of these houses here in the Row, and in the garden she has a little garden house where she has a studio where she creates these wonderful art prints and other artworks. And the only way to get this 1 ton press into her garden, into her studio, was with this crane. Crazy story, yeah. I think it's quite funny and quite unusual. Hard to believe that a press from 1832 still works with all its original parts. So we have this print from this series, 36 Views of Canary Wharf. We have it in the current auction. It was created with this awesome press, and you can bid on it in the current auction, and on 8 or 9 or 10 more prints in the coming auctions. So please give a wonderful, great welcome to Janet Brooke by bidding on her prints, my friends, by purchasing. Because if we can sell her, if we can sell her prints well, then okay, she will most probably, hopefully, send another consignment to us. We are looking for long-term cooperations, direct cooperations with these wonderful contemporary artists like Janet Brooke. Take a look at our auction catalog, take care of yourself, and maybe we will see each other for our next video. Thanks for watching now, and take care of yourself. Goodbye.